Hello and welcome to another edition of Chill with Kaiju Kim. I'm Kaiju Kim. Hope you're all doing well on this lovely afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you. Uh, Today's going to be kind of like a heavy episode, I guess. We'll try to make it fun, but we'll see how it goes. So, you ever put so much time and effort into something because you love it so much, but then life happens, circumstances change, and you have to make the tough decision to just let it go, leave it behind? I think we've all been there. And tonight's guest is going through that very situation right now as he has recently made the decision to end his beloved podcast, Kaiju Weekly. And he's here to tell us all about that. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the show, Mr. Travis Alexander.
Let it go, let it
Let it
go.
go.
Can't hold it back. Okay, no. Copyright.
And we just got copyright struck. Thanks, Travis.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Man. I am so glad that you titled this episode Letting Go instead of Saying Goodbye, because I could not handle the amount of just people commenting saying, "Wait, Kim, are you going away? Are you ending your show?"
No, calm down. Okay.
No.
Jill with Kaiju Kim's not going anywhere yet.
Her show is fine. My show is the one that's going away. Everybody's like, "Oh, good."
Like, oh, thank God. It's Travis's show. Who cares? No, I care.
Oh, man. Well, thank you for having me on. I am so glad to be back on the show.
Thanks for coming back on. Let's see who we have in the chat tonight. We got Kasaibo F29. Hello. And we got our friend Michael Hamilton. Nice to see you.
Woo.
Yay. And Nathan Marchand of the Monster Island Film Vault, the man of many podcasts.
Yeah. Speaking of podcasts, and podcasters, my goodness, Nathan, when are you going to say goodbye to some of your podcasts?
Yeah, Nathan, I think you need to let some things go.
Yeah,
we'll teach you how to do that tonight.
And yes, Michael, my mustache is back because I didn't feel like shaving my upper lip. I was just not in the
mood. That happens. Alrighty.
Man.
So you've been on the show before, so I'll spare you the 3 questions that I like to ask all my guests, unless you feel like answering them again. I mean, I have no problem with it, but
well, I'm not sure. I don't know if anything's changed since the last time I was on. It's like, what's my favorite Godzilla movie? It's still Godzilla 2000. Never really changes. And how did I fall in love with Godzilla? Well, I mean, that never really changes. So yeah. So
yeah. If you guys want the detailed answers, go watch the last episode he was on. All right.
Yeah.
All right, but we might have like 1 or 2 new people in the house that may have not gotten the chance to know you just yet. So let's start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am Travis. I am I guess is the whole point of this, the host and co-host of Kaiju Weekly, a weekly podcast that introduces people to the wide world of giant monster movies. I also am the content manager of Kaiju Ramen magazine, the fan magazine all about kaiju and giant monster goodness. I also co-hosted Henshin Men with Nathan Marchand, who's in the chat. So yeah, had a lot of I do a lot in the kaiju monster sphere. I like doing things and making things.
Don't we all? So let's talk about letting go of stuff.
Letting go.
You love Kaiju Weekly. I love Kaiju Weekly. And hopefully the people watching have at least, had a chance to listen to it and fall in love with it as well. So, and I did listen to the update that you posted on the podcast feed last month explaining what's going on. But can you just give us a brief summary of why Kaiju Weekly is ending? And are you stepping away from podcasting altogether?
Yeah, so the plan was that we would still have a really busy month of August of posting episodes and everything, and we'd kind of go out with a bang, have a bunch of big episodes, lined up in August, and that didn't really work out. So we're kind of going out with a fizzle instead of a bang, which is not the way I wanted to, but yeah. Really, this year has been kind of a rough year. Anybody who follows me and follows my social media, or follows or like you said, listens to the update on Kaiju Weekly, will know. So earlier this year, I lost my grandmother, and losing a grandparent, a lot of people go through that. That's it's nothing super special, I guess, is without, for lack of a better way of saying it. But at the same time, me and my grandmother was extremely close. We were very tight. I was her only grandson for a long time, for a big portion of my of my life, I guess. I was her only grandson. My cousin is like 15 years younger than me. So, for 15 years, I was her only grandson. And so we were just very, very tight, and she practically raised me. So losing her was really hard. And that happened in January, Martin Luther King Day. That's when it happened. And then within a month after that, well, because of COVID, I had to move back in with my family, because things were getting too difficult to live on my own. So I ended up moving back in with my family, also to help take care of my grandmother when she was sick and dying. So I've been living here with my family now. And about a month after my grandmother passed, my mom, who also lives here, got into a car wreck and totaled our car and severely injured her back.
Oh no.
And so we didn't have a vehicle for a long time, and I didn't have, because that was our only vehicle. I didn't have a vehicle to drive and work. So we were out. I was out of work. My mom was out of work. She's still out of work because of her back. And then just last month, my grandfather went to the emergency room with pains in his stomach, thinking, oh, yeah, I must have a stomach bug or something. And come to find out, his colon had ruptured and had to have emergency life-saving surgery because he was on the verge of dying, and didn't realize it. And so they had to have life-saving surgery for that. And he still has another surgery that he needs to do in 6 months, because they removed part of his colon, and they're going to have to do another surgery in 6 months. So just, there's been a lot of things happening in my life in 2022, and it's just been very chaotic, and I've been like really struggling to keep up with the podcast. I had 2 podcasts, and of course Michael, my co-host, and Nathan, my co-host on Henshin Men, they help out a ton, and they do a lot of work with those podcasts, but it still was a lot for me to try to keep up with. And so I finally made the decision, with everything going on, plus, some good things were happening too. There's some things that have been happening in my life that's on the positive side. And I finally made the decision. I said, you know what? I think it's time to step away from podcasting. I think it's time to, I always kind of knew in the back of my mind that podcasting wouldn't last forever. It's always been just because I started it as just a way to have fun. Not, I wasn't intending it to be anything special. And I'm still having fun with it. I still love doing it. It's not that I don't love doing it, but it's just like, yeah, it might be, with everything happening and all the changes that's going on in life, it might be time to say goodbye to the podcasts. And it was a hard decision. It was something that I thought of for a long time and talked to my co-hosts about and everything. And we finally, I made the decision. I said, yeah, I'm going to have to step away from it.
That is, wow. I just want to give you a hug. Like, after the show, I'm just gonna head on over there and just give you like it sounds like you need it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been hard, but like I said, we've been making do, and that's some positive things have been happening too. So it's not all negative, but that's just a lot of the negative stuff that was happening. it wasn't just that it was negative stuff happening, it was stuff that took time. I had to take the time to, we had to find another car. I had to work to try to help make up for whenever we were out of work, and a lot of things like that have been happening. And it just finally, I was like, I just don't have the time anymore to devote towards some of the stuff that I was doing. And like I told, and I'm sorry for rambling.
Yeah, you're good. You're fine.
I'm sorry for rambling. But I told Michael and Nathan, my co-hosts, I said, right now, or at least the way it was feeling, was I was giving 10% to a lot of different things, and I needed to whittle it down to having just a few things that I can give 100% to. And unfortunately, the podcast was some of the things that I think I needed to whittle down and kind of cut out so that I could give more time and effort into other pursuits.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I'm still sad to see, you step away from podcasting because, because you have a fantastic speaking voice, by the way. I don't know if anyone's ever told you that, but I don't care what, I like your voice. You're just adorable. You're just adorable. I love you.
I sound like a prepubescent child sometimes, but okay.
And I love it. I love it. But yeah, I can understand, if you're not able to give your all to something for whatever reason, then, maybe, you got to know when it's time to step away and, let go and move on to something else.
Yeah. And I feel like it's unfair to the people who are listening and are regular listeners of the podcast to be turning in, poor quality of stuff, and it's not that the quality is bad, but just we weren't being as regular. Kaiju Weekly was supposed to be weekly. We had kind of gotten away from doing weekly. Henshin Men is supposed to be a weekly show, and it's been kind of rocky and not weekly because of stuff going on in my life. And so I'm like, I can't do the things that we promised we would do in this, by having this show and in the show. And so it doesn't seem fair to try to keep going with it suffering so much. Instead, I'd rather step away. And that's not to say that it's permanent. I might, it might come back. I'm not closing the door to podcasting altogether. I'm willing to, podcast again in the future if things, work out and I can do it.
That would be awesome. And our friend Michael chimed in saying, Kaiju Weekly and podcasting was there when I needed it the most. Thank you, buddy. Aww.
Yeah. Yeah, because Michael joined the podcast after I had already started it, and he joined the podcast and without sharing too much of his business, but he joined in a very turbulent time in his life, and so he's always told me that it's been a big help for him during very difficult times. So it's nice. I love that Kaiju Weekly means so much to so many people.
Yeah, it's a great show, and it's like hearing familiar voices. As in, I will listen to it when I'm cleaning my apartment or whatever, and it's just it's like, oh, and Travis and Michael are acting cool again. I love it.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun, especially during the pandemic when, when we were able to be around other people and stuff to have the podcast, to be able to interact with other people and stuff. And that's one of the reasons why we had a lot of guests on, you being one of them, that we've had on a couple of times. Kaiju Hime, Destiny being on there a few times, Nathan, Elijah. We've had a ton of guests. Sam Perrin, who's an ecologist, one of my friends I met online. I mean, we've had all these great people. Brandon and all of the Fake Nerds crew has been on. So all of these great people that we were able to interact with at a time when you couldn't really go out and interact with people.
So with Kaiju Weekly ending, you've had some more time to explore different talents and new passions and stuff. For example, I've noticed that you've been dabbling in some very adorable artwork.
So I used to draw back when I was a teenager, like a lot of people, you go through high school doodling in your notebook, and I drew, and I did a bunch of art. I did art for people. I made big huge pieces I gave to people as gifts and stuff. But then when I got into my 20s, you know how you kind of shift away from some of the passionate things that you do, because you know that you have things that you have to take care of that are life things. And especially when you're in your 20s and getting into your early 30s, you don't have that mentality of, oh, I can bring these two things together and I can actually do what I'm passionate about and still live and make a living. So I gave up art a while back, and I stopped drawing a long time ago. And then with Kaiju Weekly ending and everything, and being out of work for a little while, I was like, well, I've got this new tablet that I have a new computer that converts into a tablet, and I'm like, I've never really gotten into digital art before, so let me try that. And so I've been doodling with that, and I just kind of stumbled into the fact that my style fits a more cutesy vibe than the more grungy kind of. I want it to be kind of like the serious monsters and destroying cities and everything, and I'm like, but that's not my style. My style leans more into cutesy, so I just started doing a series of drawings of cute kaiju, cute monsters and stuff. So yeah, been doing that.
Yeah, quick question. How much do I have to pay you to draw me a Heisei baby Godzilla?
Oh, yeah, that one's on the list. I have that one on the list. I have Biollante on the list too. I have this really neat idea for Biollante and stuff. So I have some more I want to draw, but I took a break from them because I did a I forget how many monsters it was altogether, but I did the entire lineup from Destroy All Monsters. So I did Varan, I did Anguirus, I did Baragon, Godzilla, Minya, all of them. So I did the entire lineup of those. And if anybody wants to see those, you can go and check out either Kaiju Ramen on Twitter, Kaiju_Ramen, or you can check out my Twitter at Captain Travis 55 because I do post them on there. So if you're curious and you haven't seen them, you can go check those out. But yeah, I just did a whole series of them, and I was like, okay, I kind of need to take a break from the cute kaiju for a little bit and do something different.
And by the way, thank you again for this fantastic logo that I have for my channel I've been using for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you like it.
I love it. I love it. I told you what I wanted, and then you just you ran with it, and it's just like, ah.
Yeah, I took a lot of inspiration from like the Vans logo because I knew that you were a 90s kid like me, and so Vans felt very appropriate for the time period, and the color scheme that you said felt very appropriate for that kind of like 90s era.
Yeah, it's good. It's awesome that you're exploring new talents and stuff. And going back to what you said about like in your like 20s and you have to like kind of step away from something that you were passionate about. I can kind of relate to that. Like for me, I had to let go of this dream I had. Now I was in my late teens, early 20s, which was to be a screenwriter. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I had been told my whole life that I'm a good writer, and so I thought maybe, oh well, I'll be a screenwriter, write movies and stuff. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I went down that path for years, only to find that it wasn't really my calling. Like,
Yeah.
I love creating characters and putting them in all kinds of different scenarios and situations and whatnot, but I never truly felt like I was all that good. But so I
Mm,
wasn't able to give it my all, and so that's something that I had to let go of. But yeah.
yeah. That feeling of I don't feel like I'm good enough is a thing that I have dealt with, especially with dabbling with the art now. I share my art, and no matter how many times people tell me like, "Oh, it looks good. It looks good." I'm like, I don't think so.
Are you sure? Are we looking at
Yeah.
the same thing? No.
Yeah, it's like I can see all the mistakes and everything, so I'm like,
But I think it looks good, so take that for what you will.
Well, hey, if anybody who's watching this, whether it be now or in the future, wants to commission me for some artwork, I can do non-cutesy stuff. I have done non-cutesy stuff too, but just my style tends to uh fit more cutesy style of art. But if anybody wants to commission me for some artwork, hey, you can check out some of the stuff I've done on my Twitter and see.
Yes, go check out Travis's Twitter. Link to his Twitter is down below in the description. If you're not following him already, follow him because he makes fantastic art. I'm telling you, it's good stuff. Keep it up.
Yeah, and like Nathan just posted in the chat, I did the mascot for Kaiju Ramen.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to see that, you can check out the artwork that I've done for Kaiju Ramen's mascot, which we still don't have an official name for, but we're leaning towards a couple.
Zuki Noodle.
Zuki Noodle. I want it to be Noodles. I want it to be Noodles.
That's adorable.
I thought so too. I'm like, it's so great. This big, massive monster that destroys cities, and his name is Noodles. Like, I love it.
I love it.
But Michael kind of vetoed that one. So
listen, Michael, you are canceled. Okay.
He's like,
I am the Kaiju
epic,
Queen,
not cute. Like, okay.
I am the Kaiju Queen, and I hereby decree that the Kaiju Ramen's mascot name is Noodles.
Oh man, yeah. It's great. But yeah, so that's some of the artwork I've done too recently. Yeah, with like I said, I'm not quitting doing creative things because I am the type of person who cannot I can't live unless I have a creative outlet of some kind. And the podcast was my creative outlet for a long time. But with Kaiju Ramen, the magazine, taking off, that's kind of my creative outlet now. I have this artistic side that I'm starting to do a little bit more of too. And so I feel like, the podcast isn't really necessary to fill that need for a creative outlet. I don't really, I mean, that's not the only reason I was doing it, but that was one of the main reasons I started it. So now I have other creative outlets that I'm trying. So I'm not disappearing completely. I am still doing things. It's just that the podcasting side of things is kind of, I'm stepping away from.
Okay, so now that you have a couple less projects to focus on, so you're feeling a little more liberated now.
Yeah, feeling a lot more liberated. I will feel a lot more liberated once I get done sending out all of Kaiju Ramen Volume 1s, and everybody's got their copies in their hands.
I got my copy. Yay!
Yeah, there's a lot of people that we still haven't shipped out because I really wasn't expecting to get as many people who backed us on Kickstarter for that. And so because we had so many people, we had to do it in batches. I've had to just ship them out in batches. And so that's why some people have gotten them early. Some people are still waiting. Hopefully within the next 2 weeks, everybody's will be done. Everybody's will be out. Everybody's will, will have the final shipment done within the next 2 weeks. So yeah, it's everybody should have theirs coming up soon within the next month, depending on how well shipping goes, because you never know.
Yeah, that can be a little unpredictable.
Yeah. And we are running behind on Kaiju Ramen issue 6. So that was supposed to be out 2 months ago, and we're 2 months behind. Again, life. I mean, I listed out all the things that's been happening. I'm sorry. I put in, I was just like, the only thing I can do is ask for your forgiveness and just say, look, we are still a 2-person job. Well, 3 people, because Nathan also does a lot of the work too, editing and stuff. But as far as putting the magazine together, it's me and Michael. And so because we're a 2-person job, if anything happens between, whether it be me or him, it causes delays. And so we're Yeah, we're behind, but we're going to get back on track with that now that, like I said, stepping away from the podcast.
Life finds a way to screw everything up.
Yes, yes, it
Yes,
does.
quite. Yes, quite. Yeah, but you have been going through a lot of crap, man. I just want to, like I said, I'm just gonna give you a nice big hug. Yeah, but with all this stuff going on, with all the crap you've been going through, and letting go of something that you've been doing for years, my question is, how has all of this affected your mental health?
Oh, well, that's another thing that's kind of contributed to me stepping away from the podcasts and stuff, because I've never been super secretive about it, but I also don't, go around broadcasting it to everyone. But I do have mental illness. I've been diagnosed with some mental illness. It's a bipolar disorder, complicated bipolar disorder with anxiety disorder on top of it. Kind of the two. On medication for it, so for the most part, it's under control. But yeah, my mental health, especially anybody who has mental illness knows, you kind of, especially with bipolar and other ones like it, you have phases that you go through. So sometimes I'll be super, like upbeat and ready to go, and I'm all gung-ho, ready to take on the world. And then there's a phase where I just enter that slump of, yeah, no, I'm just going to sleep for 14 hours and everyone else just go and take care of yourselves, because I'm just going to be here. So, yeah.
I can relate.
Yeah, but things, friends and family and my faith, which again, it's not something I go around broadcasting, but that is something that's a big part of my life, has kept me in a good place mentally for the most part. I have good days and bad days. The bad days do happen, but overall, I'm able to get through it because of those things, like I mentioned. And yeah, and having a hope for the future. I'm a very hopeful person, and again, because of my faith, I have a very hopeful outlook on life. Something that a lot of people don't really have nowadays. um, but that's what helps me get through some tough times, because having that hope helps you endure through, you can get through the storm, because through the storm you can see the sunlight, on the other side, not to get poetic.
That's all good. So, have there been any other areas of your life where you felt like it was time to move on or let go, or maybe you were kind of forced to move on?
um the podcasts are the two big things. The podcasts are the two big things, because I say two big things because it's two podcasts. um that's been the area where it's been the most. The magazine has been fine. Michael, took on a big role, and the in the most recent issue, so he's been doing a lot more, so it kind of gave me a break, and stuff. But for the most part, I haven't really had to step away from a lot of things. I'm very grateful that I'm able to do a lot of things I enjoy. And that maybe it's because my interests aren't super widespread. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I stepped away from painting. I tried painting for a little bit, but then I realized buying painting material is really expensive, and I
It
just don't have the
really
money.
is.
it's like stupidly I decided to oil paint, which is the most expensive paint you can
Of course,
get.
same here. Because I'm trying to follow all those Bob Ross tutorials and paint happy little trees and stuff like that, but that stuff's expensive.
It is. So I'm like, I watched a video recently of somebody took eggs and made their own paint using eggs and just chalk pastels to make the colors. I'm like, that may be where I have to go. Just make my own paints, because paint is expensive.
It really is, and it's just sitting in the closet of doom in my living room right now, and just not being untouched. And I'm like, what? I
Yep.
just wasted a bunch of money.
Yep. That
That's
was
why
me
I'm broke
too.
right now.
Yep. That was me too. I feel bad for it, but at the same time, I mean, I feel bad for it, but at the same time, I think it's always fun. It's always nice to try new things. So it was an experience, and who knows, you might pick it back up, I might pick it back up at some point.
Yeah, I keep meaning to. I was like, oh, we got to get back into painting. It's just, and then just never happens. Immediately forget about it as soon as I say
Hmm. Yeah.
it.
Well, that's why I started doing digital art, because I realized, hey, I can do artwork and it doesn't cost it anything because it's all on my computer, and I'm not making a mess and having to clean
I
brushes and
was just gonna,
everything.
I was just gonna say it's significantly less messy to do digital art.
Yes, so that's why I kind of leaned more into that area. So, but yeah, no, it's been, even though life has been hard, life has also been good. Like I'm not here to just moan and groan about, oh, woe is me, all these terrible things. Like I've had a lot of good things that have been happening too. But there've been but the the bad things have happened have also caused me to have to step away from things, and that's kind of what we're talking about here, letting go of things that you enjoy doing and moving on to something else.
Exactly. And even letting go of people that we love. Like you said, you lost your grandmother earlier this year. So sorry. That's really
Yeah.
sucks. And I lost my mom a couple years ago,
Oh.
and I've had to live without her. I've had to learn how to live without her. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was kind of unexpected. She had been sick for a while and it seemed like she was starting to get better, but one night she was just gone. And
Hmm.
it was obviously not easy, especially in the
Yeah.
beginning. But it for me, it got easier with time, therapy, and if you're the praying type, prayer. I also am a woman of faith, so I
Hmm.
I pray, and that helps me too. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's it's a thing.
Yeah, it is. This world can be really tough. But I also want to encourage people who are watching this, if you have something that you're struggling with and you are trying to decide whether it's time to let go of it and move on, don't, because I feel guilty, and you're going to feel guilty. That's natural. Humans feel guilty about a lot of things, especially if you are the type of person who has a mental illness. You're going to feel guilty about things whether you want to or not. But if you there's no reason you can't come back to something. Like, now that's what I finally told myself with the podcast. I'm like, there's no reason I can't come back to podcasting at some point in the future, so I shouldn't feel bad for letting go of it right now, and maybe come back in the future.
Yeah, just putting it in the closet of doom for now.
Yeah, yeah. And even if I never come back to podcasting, the time and experience that I had doing it was worth it. Was worth it, because whether anybody listened to it or enjoyed it, I enjoyed doing it, and that was enough for me. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, I got to keep that attitude, that same attitude for maybe a few years down the road when I'm ready to step away from video making and this YouTube channel. Not anytime soon.
yeah.
Relax.
No
It's
one
okay.
freak out.
No, like pipe down. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere yet, but there might be a time sometime in the future where I'm gonna have to step away from this. But you know, I'll just put it in the closet for now. Maybe I'll come back to it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's hard for those of us who are in a fandom, like us in the Godzilla fandom, or if whatever fandom you're in, when you're stepping away from something like this, because it feels like, well, now that's not part of my identity anymore. I'm no longer a Godzilla fan. I'm now just Travis, because the podcast was my way of expressing my love for Godzilla and giant monsters. But that's where I always encourage people, don't make things that you love are great and they should be a part of your personality, but don't make them such a huge part of your personality that if anything happens, you feel lost without it.
Mhm.
Because some things do come up, and sometimes and people grow and your tastes change. So, like, I mean, when I was younger, I was a huge Transformers fan, and I still love Transformers, but you never, if you listen to the podcast, you'll never hear me talk about Transformers, because it's just kind of like, yeah, I kind of grew and moved on from that and moved on to stuff that I love, other things that I love. And so, doesn't mean you're betraying the fandom or betraying your own identity by saying, I'm just not going to spend as much time talking about Godzilla anymore. Even though it's hard to say that, just don't, it's all about letting yourself or telling yourself it's okay. And that's what I've been telling myself a lot. Letting go of things is really hard, and moving on from things that you love doing is really hard. But telling yourself that it's okay to do that is what's important.
Yes. Yes, indeed. And then our friend Nathan says, so it's a semi-retirement.
Yeah. Like I said, it's a semi-retirement from podcasting. I'm still going to be in the giant monster sphere because I'm going to be doing Kaiju Ramen and stuff. So I will still be within the giant monster community.
I think Michael said the same thing.
Yeah,
because he can never come up with his own material.
Right. Oh man.
Oy vey. I love picking on Michael. I love you, Michael.
Yeah. And speaking of podcasting, I mean the Michael and Nathan, my co-hosts from the two podcasts that I'm stepping away from, they started their own podcast that's all about Power Rangers and stuff. It's called The Power Trip, and that is still going. So, if anybody's interested in the Power Rangers, and especially taking an in-depth look at like the themes and stuff of Power Rangers, check out that podcast, especially if you liked Henshin Men, where we talked about, the Japanese superhero type things. You'll enjoy Power Trip. And so, it's good that they have something to continue doing, even though Kaiju Weekly is ending. Henshin Men is ending, at least in as far as I'm concerned. I told Nathan, I said, you have control of Henshin Men now. You can continue it if you want. And I don't think he's made up his mind on what he wants to do yet, because he has a lot of things that he's doing.
I mean, knowing him, he'd probably just keep it going somehow, some way.
Yeah. If he wants to, he's more than welcome to do that. But Kaiju Weekly was my baby, so that one is ending. And who knows, we may come back in a different form, the Kaiju Ramen podcast instead of Kaiju Weekly. So
that would actually be quite fitting, yeah. And with Noodles as your mascot, of course.
yeah, Noodles. So
yeah. Real quick, just want to say hi to my twin, Donnie. Hello.
Hey, Donnie. Donnie actually was featured in Kaiju Ramen. Not the issue that's coming out, but the previous issue 5. We featured a few of his poems, his poetry in there, and it was really great. So anybody who knows Donnie and knows his poetry can go and check out Kaiju Ramen magazine issue 5 and see some of his stuff in there.
Yay. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. All right, so back to Kaiju Weekly.
Okay.
So this is kind of a 2-part question.
Okay.
What do you think you'll miss most about doing Kaiju Weekly, and what are you not going to miss?
Editing is what I'm not going to miss. I can tell you that right away, because editing was the worst. That is one thing I always wish. I'm like, if a Kaiju Weekly grew big enough to where I could hire an editor to edit the podcast, I might even be willing to stick with it if I had an editor who would edit it every week, because I hate editing. I hate editing the podcast. I hate the sound of my own voice. I hate doing the work of editing. It's just yeah. So that I am not going to miss. What am I going to miss? There's a few things I'm going to miss. I'm going to miss making Yeti jokes every week. Because anybody who listened to our podcast knows Yeti was kind of the ongoing joke, because I was super passionate about Yeti, and it just became a running joke on our podcast, even though we never reviewed the movie, that we were known as the Yeti podcast for some reason. And I guess it was just my undying enthusiasm for it. So that getting to talk to Michael every week, like actually talk to him, because I text message and stuff like that, that's fun. But getting to actually sit down and like, what are your thoughts on this movie? What are your feelings on this stuff? That's always fun to kind of get another person's insight on things. And so doing that every week, I'm going to miss that. And getting to interact with other people, getting to interact, at least in the way that we did on the podcast, having guests on like you and like all the other guests that we've had, getting to see the tweets and the messages that we get, some of the artwork that people have sent us based around the stupid things that we say on the podcast. Some people drew, I mean, we made a joke about dog Jesus, and somebody sent us a drawing of dog Jesus, and I was just like, oh, I love it. Michael made a joke about bananas shooting gas out of their nipples, and somebody sent a picture of that. So it's just like the artwork based around the stupid things that we say is something I'm going to really miss.
Aw, that's a level I hope to achieve someday. Someone making fan art of something stupid we say on here.
You gotta start saying more stupid things, Kim. You just don't say anything stupid. You're all smart and everything.
I mean, I try to be smart. I'm more of a pseudo intellectual.
Yeah, you're too intellectual. You need to get down on my level.
I mean, I do, pride this channel on being wholesome and delightfully stupid. So I don't know, maybe something will come eventually.
Yeah. Oh no, your channel is great. You have a really great brand that you have built for yourself, and it's great.
Why, thank you.
My brand has just been, I always say, if anybody follows me on Twitter, my Twitter account I describe as chaotic neutral, because that is just like, you are going to get like the most chaotic things ever, because I tend to, especially when I'm tired, just say random things. And with the power of the internet, now I'm able to say those things, not just in the privacy of my own home, but share them with, hundreds and thousands of people.
Here are my random thoughts, internet. You're welcome.
Yeah. So, so that's just been my brand. And because it's just the way my brain works. So
yeah, that's something you and I have in common. We have very strange brains.
Yes.
And that's why we're friends.
Yeah. Michael says I need more adult supervision. Or Nathan said I need more adult supervision. Like, yeah.
Yeah, you do. Don't we all at some point?
Some of us less than others.
I suppose that's true. And Nathan also chimed in, editing is a chore, but it's where some of the magic happens. Yeah. I can say, as someone who actually works in post-production, I can confirm editing can be a bit of a chore, but I still like it. I mean, I edit videos, not podcasts, right, but still.
For me, it's always been a necessary evil. Yeah. Like, I totally get the people who love that and like that's their passion. Like, I mean, more power to you, but just for me, that was always the worst part, and a big part of it was because I hate listening to my own voice. I was always better at editing other people's podcasts than my own.
But again, I'll say again, I love your voice. I'm just saying, you're just. I don't know. You have like a podcasty voice, but
No. My voice does not match my appearance. That's what always, just everybody tells me that.
I mean, that's the case with, anyone who does that kind of thing, I feel like. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, I think Nathan's appearance pretty much matches his voice.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Oy vey. All right, I think that just about I think I burned through all of my talking points here, but I think we're good. So before we head out, why don't you tell people again where they can find your random thoughts and your fabulous artwork?
Yeah, you can check me out on Twitter at Captain Travis 55. That's my personal account, so that's where all the random thoughts and stuff. If you want more Kaiju Ramen based things, you can check out Kaiju_Ramen on Twitter. That's where all the I don't post as many random things on there because I'm like, no, this is business. We need to be professional. My personal thing is where all the random weird stuff goes, and my rants about people who irritate me. When Miss Marvel was coming out, I ranted every week. I'm sorry for anybody who was following me at the time. I also apologize to anybody who is following me come November when Black Panther comes out, because Black Panther is my favorite superhero of all time. I love him, and I was so excited for the first movie, and I'm really excited for the next one. So if you're following me, just know for the entire month of November, my account is going to become a Black Panther stan account.
Professional.
Yeah.
What is this professional you speak of?
Right, exactly. But yeah, so at Kaiju_Ramen, at Kaiju Weekly, that Twitter account's still going to be up. May not be as active on it as I was because the podcast is ending, but it's still going to be up. And then at Captain Travis, at Captain Travis 55 is my personal Twitter. And you can check out Kaiju Ramen magazine. Check out kaijuramenmedia.com. That's our website for all the stuff that's Kaiju Ramen related.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Travis, for coming on to my show. It's always a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, I enjoy being on.
That's awesome. And to you watching at home, thank you so much for taking time out of your day/night to hang out with me and my fantastic guest. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Like the stream if you had a good time here tonight. And be sure to tune in next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for another edition of Chill with Kaiju Kim. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye. Sayonara.
Sayonara.